Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. This is episode 64. I got to start checking my math, maybe have a chart so I can check them off and I know. It don't feel like 64. It felt like just the last few weeks we were on number 50, so time is flying. I hope everybody's doing well. Your boy is just, I don't know if you can tell, I'm out of breath. Man, I got like 5 million things to do. I'm trying to catch up. I get it. I'm not complaining. It's just where I'm at. It's just, it's the way of the world, I guess. So I got to get all this stuff done. So this probably won't be like my regular length one. Not too short, but not too long. Hey, my boy Too Short. You don't know who Too Short is, Google him on YouTube and listen to some of his music. There's a few phrases that he came out with that everybody steals today. But let me get into what we want to talk about today. Hey, first of all, I felt that the Zoom meeting with Billy Keys went amazing. Of course, I hate seeing myself on TV, or on the video, but it went really good. I might have to just black my face out, or put me in the dark room. So if I'm interviewing, y'all don't know who it is, and I'll change the tone of my voice or something. But no, it went really well. Now that I'm, I feel more comfortable doing it. Now I can start to schedule more people who have been asking me, hey, I'd like to get on a podcast. So it's going to be good to do. And, I look forward to it. But without further ado, let's get into things that are on my mind. Okay, so Lakers, Denver. It just has to feel like they just can't beat Denver, man. I know look, I watched game one. I didn't watch as much of game one as I did two. But game two, I know it's, hey, well, you're not there. But just looking with how it went, they went away from, and this is with me not even looking at the numbers, they went away from everything that they did to get that lead up. And what I felt was, okay, LeBron and AD were running the pick and roll. Denver had no answer to it. They got whatever they wanted that first half and got all the shots. Now, of course, you're going to make some adjustments and say, okay, this is what we're going to do now. This is what we want to try to, push them to do on the pick and roll. But, the thing about, players who understand what they're doing is you normally, there are going to be a few circumstances where you can kind of force the issue depending on where they get the ball. But for the most part, you're not going to be able to force somebody to you're not going to be baseline and say lower right or left wing and say, okay, we're not going to let them run the screen back to the middle. We're going to force the screen down to the baseline. You might be able to do it once or twice, but great players know how to avoid that and get the play the way they want to. So they got anything they wanted. Then that second half, they didn't go to it. They started getting AD a shot in the third quarter, and then it was like, now everybody else has to try to get theirs. Not like they were ball hogging, but it looked like the other guys were really trying to hunt their shots more than just, man, let's just ride the train we're on. Let these guys go, and we'll get offense and we'll get shots out of it. And obviously, LeBron and KD can't play. I mean, not KD, AD. LeBron and AD can't play the whole game together. So what I felt was when one of them was out, you continue running what you were doing, but in a different way. D'Lo was hot. Maybe you had D'Lo run a pick and roll with LeBron now, and then still try to get those same looks. Now, I get it. They were highlighting, obviously, AD was, focal point, and they were highlighting the Joker on a lot of those things, right? I get that, but it just looked like once that second half came, that Denver adjusted. You can see how they adjusted defensively, but it looked like they really went away from it as opposed to saying, "No, we're gonna do this." Then my other thing is in the past, you can have a 10-6 or 8-0 run, and the way their games go, Denver usually has a run, and sometimes some coaches don't stop the bleeding early. And I feel like you should stop it and then run what they call after timeout plays on the baseline, and get you a good set and get you a good quality shot to kind of stop, the momentum. And then the second thing is the way they played them in the first half, they didn't play them like that in the second half. They started changing how they were doing. Like, there are certain guys, if they're not the focal point, they have freedom, to shoot. But you have to kind of decide in some instances, you're gonna pick your poison. Either you're going to let one person, score a bunch of points and you're gonna shut everything down, or you're going to shut everything. Let everybody else score and shut that one person down. Well, they don't have the ability to shut Joker down, but you really have the ability to really lock in on everybody else. The only other guy on that team that can get his shot off on a regular basis is Jamal Murray. Everybody else is, spot up shooters, hustle players, rebounds, lobs. You might have some guys that can do a 1 or 2 dribble pull, but that's usually because help side is closing out so late. But if you're just there, show me somebody that on that team other than those two that can consistently get a bucket with a counter move, free up space and shoot. I'm not talking about no one dribble, pump fake, one dribble, step back. Because if you have height on that defender, yeah, obviously you can get that. But if you're matched up from man for man, height for height, I don't see a lot of those guys getting a steady diet of that. And when you think about it, when the game is on the line, the ball is in the Joker or Jamal Murray's hand because those two guys can get buckets however they want. So I was disappointed in how how that third quarter went, how that fourth quarter went. They didn't even. I don't think AD got one shot. I think he got one shot that fourth quarter. That can't happen. You had other guys trying to make shots that shouldn't have been trying to make shots. They haven't had a flow. You go with what you have. So I don't know if they can beat them because I'm starting to wonder if they're patient enough. I think some of those players got in their head that they haven't beaten them, and they're like that. Some of the stuff that they do was like, well, I got to get a shot so we can beat them, as opposed to understanding it took Denver the whole second half to catch up. If I'm not mistaken, they didn't take the lead until the last shot of the game. So it's not like you were down. You were up that second half. The score was starting to dwindle. The lead was starting to dwindle, but you were still up. So, that's just can the Lakers win? Yeah, but I don't know if they disciplined enough to just stay at home and do what they need to do against Denver. Denver has the answer for everything, and I think they're in their head a little bit. Now, I brought the Denver game up. There was a play, and it just really, I don't want to say I got mad. I didn't get mad. I was more irritated and confused. I want to say it was under a minute left. D'Angelo Russell drives left. Michael Porter Jr. is guarding him. D'Angelo Russell goes up for a layup. Michael Porter Jr. is swiping at it, and there's a foul call, right? So Michael Porter's like, I didn't hit him. Well, replay shows like Maury Povich. You said this DNA test. The test said that was a lie. No, he hit him. Now there wasn't a lot of contact trying to block the shot. After the ball left his hands, Michael Porter Jr. whacked him in the head. in the on the right eye, right around the eye socket is where he hit him. It's obvious. So Michael Malone, challenges the foul, which I was like, why is he challenging the foul? That don't make sense because it clearly shows it. The referees come back and say it was marginal contact, therefore there was no foul. So now they got this thing where they can use, they say marginal contact, and this is what everybody's talking about. I actually went in a different way because if they said, I don't know if they were saying the hand to the head was marginal contact or the contact before the ball left his hand was marginal. So let's say the contact to the hand or to the body was marginal, right? Ball leaves his hand, the hand to the face, that's not marginal. Now, if you want to turn around and say, well, the ball was out of his hands, so therefore that's not a foul. No, that's still a foul. Maybe it's not a shooting foul, but it's probably more of a sideline foul unless they're in the bonus they shoot. Here's why I say that. You see it all the time. Sometimes a shooter will shoot as the ball hits out of their hand and it's going in, or it's hitting the basket and going up to go in. Two guys underneath are trying to jockey for position, and then next thing you know, one of them throws one down and there's a foul, right? So the ball's out of the shooter's hand, and they call a foul. That even happened last night in I think it was the Mavericks and Suns game. Okay, here's the second thing. How many times do you see shooters, when they shoot a jump shot, the ball is clearly left their hand, and you'll see the defender hit their arm or their wrist, or they land into the shooter. Ball is halfway to the rim, completely out. No contact going up, but it's coming out, and they call that foul. So I don't understand how it is that foul against D'Lo is not a foul. That blew my mind. I haven't seen the 2-minute report. I saw the 2-minute report for the Knicks game that they messed up. I hadn't seen the 2-minute report for the Lakers game, and that's the one that I want to see because I want to understand why they didn't call that foul after the shot goes up. Anytime you hit somebody, even if you're off the ball, that's a foul. And it wasn't intentional. I'm not saying Michael Porter Jr. intentionally hit him. He was trying to block the shot. That happens sometimes. So I'm not on that by that, but that was a foul. So it just blew my mind, and I'm just kind of like, wow. The other game that I watched that day was the Suns and Wolves, and it just looks like the Suns and Wolves. It's kind of one of those foregone conclusions. That's the way it looks. I'd be shocked if it didn't go 6, but right now it doesn't look like Phoenix has answers for Minnesota, and Minnesota is locked in defensively on them with a plan. Now, years past, I was always like, I like Minnesota, but they just didn't have the acumen. When I say these things, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying guys are dumb and stupid. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when it comes down to clutch, in the playoffs, you usually have to have, guys who have an understanding of, what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. Hey, we want to run some clock here and get a good shot. We know this guy has been killing. Let's get back to him. As opposed to, hey, I'm going to run down and jack up a 3. Right? You had McDaniels last year who punched the wall because they lost the game, and then he wasn't even in for the first round. You've had guys, Karl Anthony Towns, still hadn't fixed his foul situation. He still fouls a lot. He's still not where he needs to be. Gobert is, to me, still a liability. They just, they playing a team that really, they don't, he's not as much of a defensive issue. That will come because you're going to have people that are going to hunt him. And for some reason, Phoenix hunted them for a while, but they haven't as much. And then on the Phoenix side, I've said all along, look, those three are exceptional scorers. They're great scorers. But other than KD, now Booker, now look, I'm not saying they don't play defense because I've seen them, play defense. That's just not what their thing is. Now Booker was playing a lot better defense last year. He was a lot more committed. Kevin Durant has really been a good defender. Bill tries to play. I just don't look at him as, he's gonna get a stop. He can get a stop. That's what I mean. There are guys that he's gonna get a stop. He's not gonna be able to score on them when he wants to lock in and decides to play. Now, are they all defensive team players? No, I'm not saying that, but you got to have people who can lock in. Second issue I've had was really the first. No point guard. Those guys like to be set up to shoot. You need somebody that can set the table. If one of them are setting the table, then you're really only worried about two scorers. But if you had a person who could set the table for them, then you're worried about three scorers. And if the point guard can, shoot, he doesn't have to be Steph Curry, but if he can make a shot here and there, now it spreads everything out. And then they don't have any 3-and-D guys who can defend, guys who can lock up and make shots. That's the thing. If you're going to be a 3-and-D guy, you can't just be a defender. You have to be able to shoot threes. And the two guys that they have, they're great defenders, but they can't shoot. So when you have those guys in, they're more of a liability because in the playoffs, they're going to just leave that guy open and let him take shots. Sure, you'll make a couple, but you making a couple takes the other guys out of rhythm, and they know percentages. You're not going to – you could have a game where you go out of your mind, and if they say, hey, we'll live with that, but through a series, he ain't going to be making all those shots. So you got to have guys in there that can really hit. I think they need an extra big, but – that's just my thought on that. I hope I'm wrong because I'd like to see a better series. They've really exposed the Suns right now, and Anthony Edwards he's really feeling like he is just that great of a player. And I'm not saying he's not, but there's always a way to where when you're throughout the history, guys go through some things. First, they get humbled and they're kind of shown the door, like you can play, but you're not there, young fella. So I'm waiting to see that, and I don't think that's gonna happen with Phoenix. I think it'll happen in the next round. I think they're the second seed, so they're gonna end up having to play Denver. So Denver wins this year. They've started to grow on me. If Denver wins this year, I to me, this is the most rewarding because if they beat the Lakers, then they'll have to play the winner of the T-Wolves, because T-Wolves is the T-Wolves 2? Yeah, no, the T-Wolves are 2. So they'll have to probably play the Timberwolves, and then if they win that, I'm assuming Oklahoma, is going to end up, them or the Mavericks will end up in the championship, and if one of those teams, they're gonna have to play one of those teams, and then they probably have to play Boston, who matches up well. So if they get there, I would I would say, I think they really, really deserve this. I think whoever wins this year, unless if they play against each other and they're not, injuries and ejections and stuff, I really think whoever wins this will be what I like to call a true champion, where there were no lucky things, because a lot of times, this guy was hurt, or they didn't play this team matched up and they beat that team. I don't see that happening this year. I don't, other than the 4-5, I don't. Now the Pelicans, I'll give them a shot against OKC, but I don't think that you're gonna see a lot of upsets. But maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully. All right. Next thing that's on my mind, and this is just kind of a joke. But have we gone too far with media day with city and club teams? I see on my Facebook, and look, I enjoy it. I enjoy it because you get to see kids, that are excited. They're in their uniforms and they're holding the ball and they look professional and it looks like what you would see, um, in a professional media day, right? And we've kind of, they do it in college. Now we're doing it in high school. Now it's went into city league and AAU team. I actually saw something and I thought it was cute. It was a media day and it was for a toddler league. It was like pre-K, and these little kids were coming down the aisle, like kind of dressed up, and some of them had on suits, and they had their headbands and stuff, and it was really cute. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was cute, but I'm just wondering, like, have we gone too far? Is this the? I heard somebody say this is kind of another way of doing participation trophies. It's like, hey, well, let's do this. Let's give these kids some shine because, these kids probably aren't going to be good enough. And this is something that they can be remembered by. I don't know really what started Media Day I don't know what started Media Day for high school because I don't remember Media Day for high school, many years ago. It seems like I could be wrong. But it looks like it's something that started over the, past 5 years. And usually when you've had now, okay, let me strike that. There has always been, as far as I can remember, there's always been a media day as far as these were the top players in the city, right? And it was maybe 10 or 12 players. Now you got the whole starting fives or the starting, in football, it seems like it's still like selected players, but in the basketball things, I think they do something where you have the starting five players for each team and the coach. So I get it. I mean, I'm not mad at it. It was weird because I heard somebody talking about like, man, it's like participation stuff. Like you really doing media day with city league teams and stuff. And some of these teams ain't won anything. They don't have good players. And I kind of was like, man, that's kind of harsh. But then when I saw the little stuff with the toddlers, I was like, oh my God, they're doing it with toddlers. Now they're going to have they're going to dress little babies up, newborn babies in jerseys and do a media day with them. I ain't going to lie, that'd be cute. I'd be there for that. But no, I'm just wondering, if it's a question. I mean, look, could I be wrong? Okay, so here's what I ask you. If you take this year, this is kind of being serious and just kind of, I guess, I don't want to say devil's advocate, but me asking from a different perspective. If you take this year and you take all of the teams, right? All of, the starting fives for each team in the city on basketball, boys and girls, every person that was starting, right? Or that was on that media day. And then you look at the end result with how those kids performed. How many of those starting fives or how many of those five kids or four or five? I think almost every picture I saw media day, high school was at least four kids. Sometimes five. Tell me how all five of those kids did. Were all five of them, all district, first, second, third team honorable mention, defensive MVP, offensive MVP. How many of those kids were that? You can't have, that didn't happen. Not every one of those kids were on there. So if you have a situation where you're having a media day and you got one or two players that are really good, my question is, why are you having the other two or three players that are, they play their role, but they're not transcending players that are going to make a huge, significant difference with that team, winning district, making a playoff run? Why are those players in there? You don't see to me, if you're going to do a media day, it should be on your best player or players. Now, if all five of your players are top players in the city and the state, then yeah, so be it. But if you look at it and you say to yourself, at the end of the year, you got players that, didn't even finish the season because a freshman or a sophomore or junior or somebody came off the bench and started taking their spot, then it does look, when you approach it from that aspect, it does look like it's kind of a participation thing. I'm not mad at it, but I get the sentiment of, okay, we're getting to a point to where there are certain things that you do that you want to include. You want to give people their due. You want to let them, feel good about themselves. But then the reality of the sport is not like that. So at some point you have to let them know, like, hey, we don't give participation. You got to play, and be that guy. Not everybody's in the Hall of Fame. Not everybody makes a Pro Bowl or All-Star or first team defensive and stuff. Not everybody does that. You have to be able to prove that, and that's what separates you from other people. So I know I'm going to get some hate mail. Oh, man, why you doing that? We love it. And I love it, too. That was just a question. Has it? The only reason I asked was because there was a little, looked like little first or kindergarten or first graders walking down, and it was cute. So I enjoyed looking at it, but it was a question that popped in my head because I think I saw somebody post on something, and then there was a question, somebody mentioned it, and I was like, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Okay, so let me get to my basketball ideology. Here's my question. And I had 3 different kids who I was training at 3 different times. Different days, rather, not different times, on 3 different days. These are different, like one was like a 5th grader, one was like a high schooler, one was like, I think, a middle school or a 6th grade or something. Different teams, different parts of town. They didn't play on the same team. And they happened to ask me they happened to make the same kind of, I don't want to say accusation, but they said the same thing. And I kind of looked at them like, damn, did you just talk to this other kid that was here? I know they're not on the same team, but because I know the teams they're on. They alluded to their teammates faking injuries because they were scared. Like scared to perform. Like they were playing a team that really gives them problem, or they were playing a tough team, and all of a sudden something hurts, the ankle, the knee, or stomach or head or whatever it was. I don't know what it was. They didn't go in specifics, but now that player is not playing and they're sitting on the bench, or if they're in the game, they're not doing as much because they're hurt. And these kids told me that they just scared. Every time we play a team that's really good, all of a sudden they got an injury. Like they don't come to play against good competition. And the intriguing thing about that is I've heard that before. In high school, I've heard it. I've heard people say it in college. I've actually, there's been some people on the NBA level that have kind of, they didn't say it, but some things look peculiar. Like if you look throughout the history of a certain player, you would notice that, they would have weird injuries, that weren't really explained or something, or they go out and then all of a sudden they're hurt. It started because the question started, well, the question really just made me kind of dwell on it. When Zion Williams went for a basket, he came down. To me, the way he came down, he lands with his feet close. He doesn't land with his feet wider and bend a little bit more so his body can absorb, the shock absorption when you land. So his body, he landed a little bit, feet closer, and he was like hitting his head, walking away, holding his hamstring, and he was upset, right? And then, it's, he's going to be day to day. We don't know when he's going to be come back a hamstring. And I heard people saying, well, it didn't look like he did something. Now, I'm never going to question, how somebody lands to question, whether they hurt themselves. I don't look. He was killing. They were up or tied. He wants to play, but it was the fact that that was a question that just, and then couple that with some of my kids asking me that within the past, week or two, or mentioning that in a week or two, and it made me wonder, like, is that a real thing? I've been around some guys that, when it's time to really play and play aggressive and play against really good competition, they don't always come in and play the way you want them to play, right? So I'm wondering if it's a thing, because it was like, oh well, every time we play this team, they all of a sudden get hurt and they're out of the game. Anytime we play that team, that's what happens. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if this fifth grade player is saying it, I'm sure the rest of the team and parents probably can see it as well. So it's do players fake injuries because of fear of performance? If that is something, then we have to figure out how to talk to these players to make them understand. Look, some players have an enormous amount of pressure on them, and I don't think people from the outside really understand how much pressure it is sometimes to perform. Oh, well, you're getting all this money. Yeah, but money doesn't change the fact of your characteristics. If you always have anxiety for performing, if you've had that throughout your playing, career, money's not going to change it. It's going to make it worse, because you're going to be finding new ways to have anxiety about performing. So I really think that there should be some discussions with players, in a positive light, and just saying, look, because really fear is just the thing that I always, and I talk to my players a lot of times. I'll give you the 4 reasons. I might have said that before. Here are the 4 reasons that kids don't want. They have fear of performing. The first reason is usually they're afraid to miss the shot. Right? They don't want to take the shot because they're afraid that they're going to miss it, so they don't shoot. And these aren't in any order. Second reason is they're afraid of contact, or they're afraid of getting blocked. Kids don't want to get their shots blocked. They're terrified. I almost say 90% of the kids, fall in that. Not 90%. It's a big percent of kids that fall in that. Okay. Third reason is they're afraid to make a mistake because their coach yells at them and then takes them out of the game. So they would rather pass the ball and not shoot, because if they miss it, their coach is going to yell, sit them down on the bench, right? And then one that I've actually come up with recently was that they don't shoot because they don't know what to do in that situation. They want to shoot, but they're not sure how, because they don't understand the offense or the defense that's being played, as far as if it's a zone or man, how it moves. So they tend to kind of catch the ball and like, okay, I want to shoot, but I don't know if I should pass, right? Those are the 4 main reasons. And when I say 4 main reasons, I don't think I've had a 5th reason in the 20 so years that I've doing this, that I've talked to kids and mentioned it. It's always those 4. Now, it was 3, and then the 4th one kind of came up, like I say, within the last 6 months or so. And it's intriguing because of the reasons. Had a kid that I just evaluated, was the first reason. They're afraid of missing. Second kid I evaluated, and this is all within the last 5 days. A second kid didn't want to get their shot blocked. A third kid didn't know how to, was scared of their coach, right? So of like the 7 kids I've evaluated in the week and a half, all 7 fell in one of those 3. Okay, so it's a thing. So if that's the case, then we have to figure out how to let these kids know that missing a shot or making a mistake is okay when you're young, right? Because you're learning. And we have to do a better job. Coaches, we got to do a better job of helping the kids through it and helping them understand the mistakes they made and how they can, okay, we can fix it. Anything can be fixed, but you have to be able to understand how to fix it and put those kids in situations, let them know, look, if you miss this shot and we lose this game, that's okay. You're in the third grade. We're not going to prison if we miss the shot. You're not gonna never be able to play this game. You're gonna miss a shot, and hopefully, this miss will drive you to get yourself in this position again next time, and be comfortable with if you miss again. But maybe you've worked on it and you're better for it. So I think it's a discussion to have. I really do. I didn't think it was until all of these things happened between the kids saying this. It's been weird. It's like the stuff with the media day and the stuff with them, it's like all of a sudden these things kind of you ever hear something and then like it makes you think about something that you heard like a week or a month ago, and it's like they're the same thing, and it kind of you start piecing stuff together and remember stuff. Maybe that only happens on those CSI shows, but I mean it happens a lot with me. So I think we should look into it. Okay, so I want a quick touch with something. Getting extra possessions. All right. So, sometimes I'll talk to kids and they're like, well, they don't pass them the ball, and I say, well, you can score unless you got a team full of Lucas, Stephs, and Clays. Well, not Clay right now, but traditionally, that don't miss. Your team is probably not shooting better than 30%. So you can get rebounds and putbacks. You can get defensive rebounds and push the ball up the court and make a play, not having to score, but maybe you find an open teammate. You do those things, you'll start to get the ball a little bit more. But when it comes to extra possessions, when I'm doing this is I'm looking at the Knicks play, and I'm looking at how many extra possessions the New York Knicks give their team. If they didn't play the way they played, as hard as they played, they're not a great offensive team, but they play and they grind. How do you get extra possessions? Well, you limit the team that you're on. When you're on defense, you limit them to one shot. You don't let them get offensive rebounds, right? You can get steals. I'm not saying you're going to get steals all day, but if you can get between 2 and 5 steals a game, that's great. Turnovers, obviously, are they don't have to be steals. You can, they throw it out of bounds or something. That's limiting them to a possession. That's a 0 possession because they didn't even get a shot up. Getting offensive rebounds. If you get, 2 or 3 offensive rebounds here and there, you're going to increase your chances. Look at the perfect example is the Knicks in Philly. They got 2 or 3 rebounds, offensive rebounds at the end. They kept getting chance after chance after chance, and they've made those shots. So offensive rebounds lead to extra possessions. Limiting the team you're playing to one shot leads to extra possessions. If you can, get a steal or 2 or cause them to throw the ball out of bounds, that leads to extra possessions. That gives your teams more opportunity to shoot. So I don't know if people have, really, I mean, I know coaches, coaches think about that, some players think about that, but I don't think the average person really will understand, like when they're looking at points per possession, how many shot attempts does a team usually get? This team usually takes 120 shots a game. So, if we can not because of that, they lead the league, but whenever they've taken 109 shots a game, they're 0-30 or whatever. So let's try to keep them around 109 because those extra offensive rebounds they get is how they make their living. Maybe they lead the league in offensive rebounds. So you can change games with little stuff, not just scoring. All right, last thing I want to mention is I had a new kid, and I was working with the kid on ball handling. and doing the drill work and doing it. It was an assessment, and doing it and trying to help the kid with the ball handling. The kid had poor footwork. Well, you know what? I'm not gonna say they had poor footwork. They had footwork where it was lacking because they were young. They didn't really understand how to use their footwork when it came to ball handling. So we was working on that, and you saw an immediate response to their ball handling. Their ball handling became a lot smoother because of the footwork. And then the parent at the end was, because the parent, I guess, tries to works with the kid and stuff. And it's always funny because I'm like when I give them breaks, the parents usually over there trying to. Some parents are not all of them. Some of them are like, okay, you got to do this, got to make sure you do that and stuff. And then once I get back on the court, then they try to say something. I have to tell them, okay, you can just sit there. And I hate doing it, but it's like, look, like, if you want to coach your kid, that's fine. But you didn't bring your kid over here so you can sit over there and try to coach him. And the reality is you don't really know what you're doing when it comes to that, because if you did, you would have your child at home. And you're not understanding, what I'm doing and why I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And this was a perfect example. The parent wasn't like overbearing. It wasn't nothing like that, and sometimes I have to just kind of make sure I let them know, like, look, I'm not trying to be mean when I try to tell you, but I can't have your child looking at you every time I'm talking to them. That's a no-no. That's a red flag. That means that you're a little bit more involved in what you should be. And if you're that much involved, then you should be able to show your kid these things. But if you don't know how to show them, then you're just, white noise, as I say. They're listening, but they're not improving. So the improvement in the 15 to 20 minutes that we did this drill to help the footwork and stuff, parent was like, I've tried to get my child to do this, and I've never been able to do it. I never knew that footwork was this important with ball handling. And I was like, well, I appreciate the fact that you were impressed with what was done to get your child better. And it's like, a lot of people don't really understand that. They'll see people dribbling and they see the handles, but they don't understand the footwork that they had to use and get used to be able to do some of those things. And that's why we're here, because there are so many things that go into some things. Some people are like, oh, you just got to follow through. Your follow through is wrong and off, not looking at all the other components, the 7 to 9 components of shooting a jump shot. They might have great follow through, but their footwork is poor. They have poor balance, poor posture. They don't have a fluid shot or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's important, and that's why I do the evaluations. I mentioned it last week. That's really why I do the evaluations, because I have to show. I'm showing the kid, what they need to get better. And then sometimes you have parents who've played, some have played, some, played on high school. I've had some that play on the college level, and they all will say the same, like, damn, I've tried for 2 months to get my child to do that, and I couldn't get them to do it. And you got them to do it in like 5 minutes. And, I'm just kind of like, well, yeah, it's other stuff that you have to understand that goes into it. But I get it. I get it. As parents, you want to be the one that can guide them with everything, and sometimes it's like, well, what is it that you can do that I can't? Well, let me show you. But it's a weird dynamic. But yeah, it was just kind of funny how that parent didn't really understand the footwork that was involved with ball handling. And it was a good thing, because their parents' eyes was open, the child's eyes was open. I had a greater appreciation for. It sounds weird, but I had a greater appreciation for what I'm able to accomplish, because it was like, they couldn't figure it out. The parent couldn't figure out how to help the kid get better, and we did it, and it was something I was able to do. So I'm always learning. I'm always appreciative of everything. And it's a joy to me when they learn. It really is. It's a joy when these kids get better. When these parents, when I see some of these kids, player of the game, or parents send me clips of stuff that they done. It's a joy to me because you know it's not my doing; it's their doing. I just had a hand in it. I'm glad that I was able to help them, get better in what they were struggling with. So I really enjoy it. Every kid that comes in, every accomplishment they get, to me, it's a brick that's building a foundation, you know? So that's all. I thought it was going to be a really short, but I guess I was running my mouth. It wasn't too short. And there it is, another too short. I got to go listen to some of his songs because I wrote his name up twice. Okay, so we're going to end it. I'm hoping to have another Zoom meeting with someone next week or the week after. I have to look at the schedule. I'm going to be in and out of town. So, I might just try to do something when I'm out of town if I have something. Maybe I'm going to the house. Maybe I'll, find one of them neighborhood crackheads that, and get them on and stuff. I got to watch my stuff if I'm going to do it because I don't want them running off with my equipment while I'm asking them questions. So, we'll figure something out. But make sure you like, subscribe, follow, comment, good or bad. I mean, I did have a troll, not a troll. It was somebody trying to get me to do their product or something, and I felt like, hey, that's big when somebody starts trolling me. Not trolling me, but they spam. They input a spam something trying to get me to get their product or something. So other people took it bad, but I was like, hey, that means that they're listening. So I'm going to end it like I always do. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports. Okay, that's a